Hello, how's it going? In today's video, we're starting Chapter 3 of Chronicle Volume 2, and we'll be looking at the second invasion of Azeroth, the Long Hunt, and an Age of Legends. So let's go! So the first invasion of Azeroth had failed. The demons' attempt to craft a gateway to the Nether using the Well of Eternity didn't work. We've covered that already. But Sargeras wasn't just going to give up. The Legion needed to find a new way to breach the world, but they also needed to make sure that they wouldn't face heavy resistance when they did. Sargeras had himself an idea. They needed new weapons. And by weapons, he meant cannon fodder that could soften Azeroth's defenders before the Legion arrived. So he ordered his followers to scour the universe in search of some suitable races to corrupt into the Legion's ranks. Meanwhile, Sargeras sought out a powerful individual on Azeroth who would serve as a vessel to get this bloody invasion party started. You can probably guess who that individual is. Also, kil'jaeden had tasked a demon named Talgath with hunting the Draenei. He'd been one step behind them for a while now, arriving on worlds that they'd touched and then left, and he was getting a bit annoyed by that. But when the Genadar crashed, waves of holy energy had splurted out across the twisting nether. Talgath sensed this power and investigated, and when he realised these energies had come from the very same Naru who'd helped Felon and his renegades escape Argus, he was over the moon. It took over a century for him to track the holy power to its source on Draenor, and he was pretty convinced that when he arrived, the Draenei would be long gone, but they weren't. He observed their settlements and realised their spaceship is in ruin. They're bloody trapped. Talgath communed with kil'jaeden and told him of his findings. Kil'jaeden was pleased, as he'd held a grudge this entire time against Felon. However, he commanded Talgath to remain hidden and continue to do recon. Over time, Talgath reported information about the Draenei way of life, as well as details of the Orcs and other indigenous species, and kil'jaeden thought, Orcs, you say? Well, that's interesting. So Talgath continued to observe, now focused more on the Orcs and their ways. They were incredibly resilient, and maybe a little bit prone to violence. He devoted his attention to those he felt held the most power and influence among their race. The WARSONG, BlackRock, Bleeding Hollow, Shadowmoon, Thunderlord, and Frostwolves clans. The WARSONG's constant battles with Highmaul ogres had made them quite fearsome. They were now led by a chieftain called Grommash Hellscream. Even though the Highmaul outnumbered them, he boldly led his people on numerous assaults. Eventually, they managed to shatter the ogres' hold on Nagrand and take much of it for themselves. And the ogres' woes continued. They had a tendency to enslave orcs and then make them fight each other in an arena for, entertainment purposes. One slave called Kargath decided he'd had enough, tore off his own hand to escape his chains, advised a lot of other slaves to also do that, which I'm sure they appreciated, and he led an uprising, which rampaged through Highmaul. Afterwards, Kargath went on to form a new clan, called the Shattered Hand. They lived in the spires of Iraq and were a little bit mental. Slavery had that effect on them. They only knew torment and pain, so they adopted traditions of self-disfigurement, and they'd attach weapons to the ends of their severed limbs and stuff. Kargath himself earned the name Blade Fist, because he had a blade for a fist. In Gorgrond, the Blackrocks were now led by an orc named Blackhand. He was massively respected by all orcs across the world. He was arrogant and power-hungry, but also charismatic, and a great fighter. The Blackrocks also boasted the largest, best-equipped, and most organised orcish military. This was due to their developed mastery with Blackrock ore. The Bleeding Hollow dwelled in Tanaan jungle and practiced dark rituals. They faced many threats, from Botani and Genesaur to ogres and Arakoa. They were almost completely wiped out until their new leader came to power, Kil'jaeden Deadeye. Interesting fact, he'd undergone a rite of passage to see the future. He gouged his eye out and was granted a vision of his own death. As a result, he lived his life without fear, because he knew exactly when he was going to die. He murdered his father and took control of the Bleeding Hollow clan. Then he led his orc followers across the jungle and they eradicated their enemies. Talgath was intrigued to see that not all clans were warlike. The Shadowmoon were a spiritual and relatively peaceful people. They had a wise chieftain called ner'zhul. He was respected by every clan and acted as an advisor to all shaman. Finally, the Frostwolves. These guys were weird. They were exceptional fighters, and yet didn't seek to dominate their land. Their chieftain, Garad, embodied noble ideals of family and community. He pressed his values onto his 3 sons. 2 of them, the youngest sons, Gnar and Durotan, idolised him and accepted these teachings. The eldest son, Fenris, didn't. Fenris actually abandoned the Frostwolves and joined their rivals, the Thunderlord clan. Unlike the Frostwolves, they valued acts of bravery and valour above everything. They'd often go on dangerous adventures to kill Gron or Magnaron. Fenris gained the renown he so desired, and eventually became the chieftain of the Thunderlords. For the next few months, Talgath continued to observe the clans in Frostfire Ridge. Tensions were rising between the Orcs and the Bladespire Ogres. The demon wanted to see how far the Orcs would go to secure peace for themselves. And we're leaving it there! So, bit of a housekeeping world-building video. We now know most of the key orc players for the story moving forward. In the next video, Gul'dan gets introduced, so that's pretty cool. If you enjoyed this video, press the like button. Also, you could subscribe if you want. But all that's left to say is, thanks very much for watching, and see ya!